about to enter a weird thing. Oh my god. Enter the soon.
Now, when you guys are ready to come this way, I'll let you be the judge of that. But this is that stalagmite I'll talk about. Again, once you have that, it's a really good indicator you can touch the wall. If you happen to be taller, however, I'm going to need you guys to watch your head for me, okay? Why don't you pass those two things again? The wall's free.
The bacon looks so good. How about they? It's just water.
Don't splash, please.
Oh, we're on the inside of a whole different experience. So there's a tiny little guy just sitting there. Ooh, stalagmite. I'm walking through a whole crystallized rock. It's an experience I didn't think I would experience. Yes, it is. There's always. Oh, now it's really raining.
So we can't get the rope through now, because we're using tight rope to pull it up, right? Well, the only way to clear it, the base one now, is send like a piece of rebar, right now, you can pull it, just go. I mean, the cave, someone was, unfortunately, someone was sitting in here, like, working, you know, a good first day. So we have to do that. I know, right?
The funny thing is that you can't even see where the water is coming from because it's so clear.
I got you, man.
Oh, there it is.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
So to kind of give you my perspective, now what I'm going to tell you here in a second, you can debate that yourself. We got everybody? Just Bell? No, we just sort of got it. Is there still stuff around the corner there? Yeah, I see it. Would you guys come up on that platform there? And hopefully when you guys do that, nobody will come out. Sorry about that. That's right. Can you tell me about that one?
Strong pass.
Hey, yeah, I appreciate it.
I'm gonna do it.
Is that a little bit better? More out of that formation? Cool. Cool. Okay, so our next subject that we're going to be talking about is those steps back there and a little bit about the hole that's in the ceiling back there. Now, what the steps were built for is actually for the family back in the day. Now, when they were first getting cave tours, one of the most difficult things to show off in this cave is this big formation right here. It makes a lot of sense. You use candles and kerosene lanterns. You got the biggest thing in a cave, so that's a limited light source. Again, biggest thing in the cave. There's going to be some conflictions there. So what the family would do is they would leave candles all over the face into this formation. Mainly it'd be about 4, but any more definitely help. Now, without understanding, we don't really use candles anymore. We have all these electrical lights, and it makes such a massive difference on how we see our cave. What I like to tell people, and you don't have to do this is just an example, but if you look from the floor to the roof, you already seen more cave than they ever got to, period. They just didn't get to see that much. So having all these electrical lights in here is a great benefit to us. Now, does it benefit the cave? I'll give you the short answer, no. The ecosystem and the formations down here have been slowly damaged because of these lights, especially them being in here for over 40 years. That's just something that happens when you bring man-made stuff into a cave. It's natural. Now, besides that, again, there was a project about pushing back into this wall back here. Now, I'm going to give you an idea of why they thought they needed to go back there. When Silver City purchased this property, again, that was shortly after 1969, the owner of Silver City, at least one of them, we're going to call him Jack because that's his name. Mr. Jack thought there was more cave again behind that wall back there. And he had two pieces of evidence. The first one is if you look at the crack in our ceiling, it does not look like it stops there. And I'll even put my light up there where you can see it. It just looks like it keeps on pushing past that right section, as if there was something back there. That was one indicator. The second one is these walls. Sorry about that. You good? I didn't blind you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. You can hit me later for it.
No.
I'm just kidding. So, just so everybody understands, this wall right here is composed of a bunch of different things, but we're just going to say this is a limestone wall. This wall is the same thing, water just ate down the middle of it. So we can agree on this, yes? Especially if you know enough cave science? Okay, cool. Now, that space between those two walls back there, so everything that sits between those two walls, so this, every bit of it from the floor to the roof is clay. That does not make a whole lot of sense. It should be limestone on limestone on limestone. That should be what it is no matter what. So that indicated something put all of that clay between those two walls. Now, what can allow something like that to happen? Hydraulic pressure. Water building enough pressure to push all that clay between those two walls. That would mean there has to be a room behind there to allow that hydraulic pressure to build. Okay, you see what I'm getting at here? It just really looked like there had to be more. So what he did is he hired well drillers to come out on the property and drill holes in our pits. One of those holes, again, is sitting in our ceiling up there. Now, if you're wondering, why did they put a hole in a cave they already know is here? It's because their intentions were to follow that crack in our ceiling. And if you can't see that crack from the surface, you have to do something that indicates where that crack should be. You put a hole in the cave you already know is there, you follow that hole up the surface, you can drill your holes and have the understanding it's going to be almost level with where this cave is. Now, when they did this, their idea was, if you go back to these holes you just drilled, and you put a bunch of air pressure down into this hole, it would be able to tell you the volume of the room that is below you. Incredible idea, right? Now, when he did this, he said that the last hole that they drilled up the hill there was barely big enough to fit one human being, looking like a cave passageway. So their first intentions were to start digging back there. You can see that ladder? At the very top, there's a tunnel. The sad thing is, what I tell people is they were telling people they were gonna, not really, but they were gonna run a mile and only ran half a mile. I only think they dug so far to where the point they should have kept going, but they did not. If that makes sense, they probably said that in a really weird way. So they stopped halfway, should have went further. I think they would have found more cave personally. Now, does that mean there is evidence of there being cave back there? Not since 1972 after we drilled those holes. Fair enough? You guys ever come back in a few years? There could be more cave. I will share this with you. This spring, this exact spring, which is coming up shortly, next month, we're going to build a platform on this back section here to continue the digging project up. So we're working towards it. It just hasn't quite got there yet. Okay. Now, we're going to keep on moving. Two more things. These corner steps right here, just to make it plain simple to the point, I need you to be incredibly careful for these two steps right here. The only reason, at the end of the step, there's a curve. These two, just after it, the problem with those, they're incredibly tiny. I have a 9.5 in shoe size, half my foot fits that step. If you have anything bigger than that, you're gonna have a problem. So please be very careful. Just to give you an idea.
Mom, we got a problem.
That's not a very big step. That's okay.
Sorry. Already know. Oh wait, it was like a water pump. These stairs are so tiny.
Now, once you guys can get down here, just so you know, this is one of the lowest points in our cave. Now, when we get over there, I like to think it's a little bit lower. but the idea is we're at the bottom, right? So once you're down here, you are 160 feet in the ground, or technically 16 stories. If that makes 16 stories, or that 16 stories, pretty awesome. We're not dead, that's right. Alright. Now when you guys are walking through this pocket, you guys can touch the wall. Just watch your right side for all the bacon.
Don't eat it.
That's right, don't taste it. Taste like butter.
See how funny I am? Oh, my socks are so wet. It's the worst feeling ever. Mom, I'm gonna die. Ooh, it's blue. Joseph, is that your favorite color? Don't touch the bacon. What did I got this thing? I want to drink it. Oh my God, keep going.
But it's called The Descent, and it's terrifying. Yes, it's terrifying. It's not even anything like Earthquake. I mean,
That one looks like quartz.
my instincts say like
It almost does, doesn't it? You want to know what it is?
Yes.
So it's the same mineral that's making up all the other formations in the cave, but the impurities inside of it is what's different. So they say that a pure form of calcite should be see-through like glass. You should be able to have it grow and everything, and you should be able to put a light through it and see through it. So the idea is what's causing all the light in there? What's allowing that to happen? There's two answers to this. One of it could be oxygen being trapped between the crystals. That would give it a white opaque color to it. We compare it to ice cubes freezing. When an ice cube freezes, you'll see a white line in it sometimes. That was the oxygen trapped between the bubbles of the water, right? Now the other part of that can actually be due to the layers of limestone that are in this cave. If you look at some of the layers in here, especially the wider ones, they have that opaque color to it. And the idea is the acids that travel with that water can actually pick up the color of the limestone and change what the calcite looks like determined by the acid that comes with it. That would allow it to place in a white-like fashion. That would also mean that the red and brown that you guys see over there, that's iron and oxygen. We have a lot of iron here in the state of Missouri, especially mixed in with clay, and that's what makes it red and brown, like you see over there.
Did you get splashed?
So, pretty cool. Now, one thing I want to discuss with you guys, since we're all the way down here, is natural draining, which does happen in this cave. Again, if the cave floods, it's going to naturally drain. Now, if you folks look just behind you there, and for you guys that are on this bridge, when you were to come down and look to your left, you'd be able to see it. There's nothing important that you need to look at right now. There's a tunnel right there. Now, that tunnel, again, is one of the natural drainages to this cave system. We have two of them. The other one is underneath the column on the other side. Now, in 1976, we hired someone that is called a hydrologist, which is the person that studies the flow of water and where it goes. And one particular tool they like to use when they're trying to study water and how it flows is by changing the color of it. So a lot of the times this would be like a yellowish green dye, something that's bright that they can see always. Now, when they did this and they were tracing out the property, they gave us two answers of where all of our water goes. The first one we already knew about, but there's a small spring house off on the property on the nature trail. If you walk towards that spring house, when this cave is flooding, it puts out through that natural spring on the property. Now, from the same hillside that spring house is on, but down further towards the left, again, a little bit further down the hill, there's another cave on the property called Pow Cave. We noticed small amounts of dilating between this one and that one. Now, what that means is that water connection is surely there, but that does not mean if you were to start crawling down that tunnel, that you would immediately pop up into another cave. I promise I've tried. I get about 15 feet down that tunnel, and physically our bodies just won't go any further where that water will continue to go. A lot of the times that makes sense. When you have one cave system, it's typically going to be a part of a larger cave system, but through water connections, not through physical outputs. Again, some caves can be like that. One cave I would say is very close to something like that would be Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. They're just so massive that I'm sure, without a doubt, they probably connect to what is considered another cave, but it's probably just that one going much further, if that makes any sense. Cool. Now to push a little bit past that, there is one formation I want to mention. It's those little things you guys see hanging underneath our cathedral. Jeez. Those little things right there. Now what you guys are looking at is what we like to call a soda straw, or tubular stalactites. Now how these little guys will form is when water is traveling through a small crevices and crack, and you can think about it like this. If the minerals were to place inside the crack, or just behind where that water droplet would come out, that would allow no water flow, meaning nothing would grow there. The water would just stop. So what it really does is it leaves behind a small mineral ring around that driplet of water when it travels into that crevice. When this happens, the water will continue to replace the minerals at the bottom of this ring, eventually creating a tubular pattern, like what you're looking at there. That's why we give it the name soda straw, because they're hollow through the center. Now at some point though, that water can bring small bits of sediment with it, and those sediments can clog the center of these tubes. And when this happens, that water will continue to fill the inside until eventually it creates enough pressure inside this that it starts pushing itself towards the outside of the formation. When this occurs, it turns into a stalactite. So the idea is these are the beginning stages of our stalactites, and the stalactites once upon a time used to be a set of soda straws. That's at least the thinking.
Love it.
So they used to. Wait, no, that's bacon. That looks like bacon.
It does look like bacon, doesn't it? Bacon kind of forms the same way. If you want a really good example of how bacon forms, I like to use my elbow as a great example. You can do this too if you want. And this goes for anybody that wants to know how bacon forms. So you imagine water flowing off a ledge, right? Water doesn't just take a high velocity and just fly off the end, unless it, again, has a high velocity, right? A lot of the times what it does is it goes to the lowest point possible, right? And then it would start a little bump. Now as the water travels into this bump, it's going to place the minerals on the outside of that bump.
Eventually making it.
You're catching what I'm saying? Absolutely. And that allows a drape-like fashion to form, like what you're seeing there.
So basically, it depends on your angles.
Bacon.
So like how flat it is up under here gives you more of a direct drop off of
But
the
if it has like a
base
little curve in it?
versus an angle. You're getting the bacon.
And that is how we get the curls and stuff you're seeing there.
You get your bacon because of
Yeah, we're feeding ideas. I love it. It's good. So, and that's exactly how this formed. Super incredible, I know. Now, if you want to know one other thing about this cave that makes it super unique, and then I'll stop talking because again, I'm getting too excited. The one thing about this cave that stays very true is the consistent rate of water that gets in here. Every time we get water, it comes down to the same velocity every time. It does not change whatsoever over the 100 years we've been operating this cave. It's fascinating. Now, what can allow something like that to occur is the different layers that are above this cave system. We have one particular layer above, it's called shale, and we believe it's in the shape of a bowl. So when all this water is held up in the shale layer, only so much of that water is allowed to come through at a given time, allowing a slower rate of water. When water moves through an area slow enough, it can place all those minerals. It has enough time to do that, allowing more accumulation to build. This is how we get some of these big formations inside this cave system as well. That's the end of it. Okay, so what we're doing on this other side here is I have a camera. If you feel photogenic today, I'd love to get a picture of you, your family, friends, whoever you brought today. Now, once we're past that point, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like with all the lights on, okay? Yes. Let's go.
We're going ahead of our family, that's fine.
That's okay, that's okay.
Is that fine, Mom?
Did you guys want a picture? No?
I say I have my phone.
So what I'll have you guys do for me, again, if you don't want, pardon me, if you don't want your picture, is to go ahead and find you guys, oh, sorry, a good comfortable spot towards the bottom there for me.
I'll say I'll take a photo.
So the image gets to fit on that larger step.
I'm taking videos, so I've been recording for a little bit.
Okay. All right.
Don't pass.
Don't go up there.
Don't pass. Oh, there's another cave down there. It's a cave down there.
Guys like chicken today?
Water.
Alright, let's get your smile. Alright, and this is gonna be from the count of 3. So here in 3, 2, 1. Now look at me. The blinks, the blurs. I think you guys are crazy. Thank you so much. And if you guys would like to, now I come to the pot for the lot. What do you guys want to make today?
Don't do that.
If you guys want to start a line.
I should probably move.
We just came from inside of that all the way out here. That's impressive.
And then if you guys want to taste the cheese, you're in 3, 2, 1. Smile, look at me. The blinks, the blurs. You guys okay? Very much. All right.
I'm just waiting for her to just poke out that little hole. Does that scare you? I'm just waiting for a little hole to, a little head to poke out that hole right there.
What?
Yeah, I want to float down. No, go away, John. Looks like a mini fridge.
You like to show you what's like an actually just environment first and then you turn on the candle. What can I do? We're going to do it that way first. I'm going to show you, I'm going to turn the candle on first, turn the light off, so you have an experience of what it looks like in the candle, and then I'll blow the candle out, and you'll get to see natural light. So you guys want to
Oh, we're about to see natural light.
It's just an open light.
It's a tiny little candle.
One favor to ask all of you, and this is a big one. When the lights go off, please don't move.
Oh. Oh, that's the only.
You should be able to tell. Oh, it does a little bit, but it's not gonna.
Oh my God, Justice, I wish you were here.
One awesome thing about candles was
Gibby, you too. Everyone.
Maybe not so much for the lighting aspect of it, but it's something you can constantly reuse. And
That's the candle right there.
especially for a long-term session. Now.